As long as we've been looking at the sky, we've been interested in the idea that other places, like Earth, might have living things. Even though our trips to the moon have shown us that it is completely empty and has no life, there are still many other worlds in our solar system that are ready to be explored. Life could live in the clouds on Venus. On Europa and Enceladus, there could be life in a pool of liquid water below the surface. Even the liquid petroleum lakes on Titan are a good place to look for strange living things. Mars seems like the most interesting choice. This Earth-like planet that is smaller, colder, and farther away was wet for almost 1 billion years. There are hints that there was or is life on Mars. Maybe even right now. 5 things could be caused by life on Mars. Up to now, this. Through orbiters, landers, and rovers, we've learned a lot about Mars. There are mountains and dry riverbeds on Mars. Mars is made up of solid rock and spheres of hematite. These things can only be found in places with water. We found ice, snow, and frozen water that had been hidden on Mars. We've seen salty water running down the sides of craters. But it's not clear what this means. Early Mars had a thick atmosphere and water that could flow, which are 2 of the most important things for life on Earth. Even though Mars doesn't look like it has life, there are 3 signs that it does. In 1976, NASA's Mars Viking landers were the first to find proof that Mars existed. Experiments with a gas chromatograph mass spectrometer came next. After doing tests with gas exchange, indicated release, and pyrolytic release. Both Viking landers had a marked release test, but it only worked once. Every other test was a failure. The second piece of proof was a Martian rock called Allen Hills 84001, which was found on December 27, 1984. About 3% of the asteroids that hit Earth come from Mars. But this one was about 2 kilograms or 4 pounds heavy. After leaving Mars 4 billion years ago, it took 13,000 years to get here. In 1996, we found fossilized pieces that may or may not have come from living things. The chemical and biological processes on Mars could cause methane to be released seasonally. The third piece of evidence came from Curiosity, the latest Mars robot from NASA. As the seasons changed on Mars, Curiosity saw burps of methane coming from certain places below the surface, but only at the end of winter and at the start of spring. Again, this is at best a mixed signal because methane release could be caused by artificial geochemical processes that change with the seasons, or it could be caused by organic biological processes. When we take into account everything we know about Mars, there are 5 possible ways that life could have developed on the red planet. It could be a world where life once thrived, but then died out. It could be a world where life is still going on. It could have been started by life from Earth. Or it could only have life from Earth that has traveled there since the beginning of the space age. Here is what each choice means. Number 1, there has never been life on Mars. Even though early Mars had the same basic materials as early Earth and had wet conditions like early Earth, the right conditions for life just did not happen. All of the chemical and physical processes that don't involve living things kept going. The Sun then took away Mars's atmosphere a little more than 3 billion years ago. This dried up any surface water and gave Mars its current appearance. This is the most conservative stance, which says that all 3 alleged positive tests must have an inorganic or contamination-based explanation. This makes a lot of sense, and many people think that this is the case by default. Until and unless enough evidence shows that there was or is life on Mars now or in the past, this is likely to stay the leading theory. Number 2. There used to be life on Mars, but it died out. This case is interesting in a lot of the same ways as the last one. It's easy to picture a world with a thick atmosphere like early Earth, stable liquid water on the surface, continents with a wide range of geological features, volcanoes, a magnetic field, a day like ours, and temperatures only slightly cooler than Earth's today. People find it hard to think that these conditions would not lead to life after more than 1 billion years. Especially since life started on Earth only a few 100 million years after it was made. On the other hand, when Mars lost its atmosphere, it had a big effect on the planet and could have killed out all of its life there. This idea could be proven by drilling down into Mars's sedimentary rocks to look for fossilized life forms, or even carbon-rich inclusions that have been changed by metamorphism. Number 3. Life used to be on Mars and still is, but it is mostly dormant beneath the surface. This is the best-case situation for life on Mars from a scientific point of view. Maybe life started early on, and when Mars's atmosphere was killed, a few extremophiles stayed alive by being frozen and not moving. Life wakes up and starts doing its basic biological jobs when the right conditions are present. This could happen underground, where water can sometimes flow. If this is true, then there may still be life under the surface of Mars, maybe in the shallow sands just a few feet or even inches below the ship. Most likely, we're talking about single-celled life that might not even be as complicated as a eukaryotic cell. But finding life on a world other than Earth would be a big deal for science. When the Perseverance rover from NASA successfully takes off on July 30th, 2020, it will collect samples that will help scientists figure out what might be going on. Number 4. There was no life on Mars until Earth sent some there. A very large, fast-moving object hit Earth 65 million years ago, making the Chicxulub crater and sending enough debris into the air to cover the whole planet in a cloud of dust. This caused the 5th great extinction in the history of Earth. And like many big impacts, this one probably sent small pieces of Earth all the way into space, the same way that impacts on the Moon or Mars send meteors all over the solar system, some of which land on Earth. On the other hand, a few hits are likely to send things from Earth into other worlds, like Mars. It didn't seem likely that organic-rich stuff from the Earth's crust wouldn't make it to Mars. Instead, species from Earth went to Mars and started having babies there, whether they survived or not. Maybe one day we'll be able to put together the whole story of life on Mars and find out if any of it came from the same parent as all life on Earth. It's an interesting idea that's hard to say no to. Number 5. Life from Earth has been sent to Mars by our present space program. Lastly, Mars might not have had any life on it for billions of years before the space age began. Species from Earth could have stowed away on spacecraft that made it to Mars without being fully cleaned or sterilized. It's every astrobiologist's worst nightmare. There's an interesting history of life to be found on another world, but we'll bring our own species there before we find out the real history of life on that world. In the worst-case situation, simple life from Mars could be doing well, but life from Earth could come and outcompete it, killing it. This real, healthy fear is one reason why, from a biological point of view, we are often so cautious when we look into other planets and other worlds. There's a lot of hope that the current and future generations of Mars rovers and orbiters will help us figure out if life is living on Mars now or if it ever has. If the answer is yes, the next important question is whether that life is connected to or separate from life on Earth. It's possible that life started on Earth and spread to Mars. It's also possible that life started on Mars and spread to Earth. It's even possible that life started before both Earth and Mars, with early forms of it taking hold on both. But there is no strong evidence that life ever existed on Mars at this time. We have found a few things that could be signs of past or present life there, but all of the stated results could be caused by non-living things. As always, the only way to find the truth is to do more and better study with better tools and methods. As NASA's Perseverance rover takes soil samples, the next step will be to send them to Earth to be analyzed in a lab. If we are successful, we might be able to figure out in the next 10 years which of these 5 options fits the facts about Mars the best. Thanks for watching this video.